Welcome, merchants, explorers, pilots, and other professionals of a dubious nature. On this channel, I discuss the factions that design and build the worlds we explore in our games, movies, and stories. If you're interested in seeing more of that, hit subscribe. Today, I'm going to talk about the history and lore of the Gek, from their merciless dominion of the galaxy to the fall of their empire. As a warning, this video contains spoilers for the story of No Man's Sky. Alright, let's get into it. Stars speed past as we spin in the void, dodging beams of laser fire whipping past our cockpit. An alarm blares, a missile's incoming. We pull an evasive maneuver, rolling around the tower of the freighter as we fully come about. We lock onto our target. The last of the pirates has us in their sights, but now we have them in ours. We fire our weapon, and slowly their shields begin to buckle, but we aren't quick enough. Their weapons take a toll on ours as well. We pull to port and try to get a lock, but they're too fast. By the time we get a visual, they're almost out of our field of view again, having turned back and under us. We pull down again, sweeping the starry void for a sign, and it comes in the form of a rocket, striking us and pulling our shields down in a blink. We spin away to avoid more damage, but our hull takes a beating. We try and recharge, but they're on us before we can. We swing away, diving fiercely to avoid their guns, and then we spin and finally get another lock. It's all down to this. We have one shot before we're blown to bits. We unleash our guns and keep ourselves steady. They get 1-2 more hits in before their ship explodes in a shower of sparks and debris. We've made it. Barely. We limp over to the system station and land our coughing wreck of a ship. We don't want to go back out there and face another battle like that unprepared. It might be our last. It's time to upgrade our systems. An expensive task, but there, in the corner near the docking bay, is a friendly creature waving at us. We wander over and tell him of our plight. He whispers to us that he may have a mission for us. A dangerous one, but it'll give us the units we need to finally better our ship. We nod, not knowing that this is the first step on a long journey. We're in the Merchants Guild now, and the Gek who set us on this path knows that we both stand to profit. It'll be worth the trouble. The Gek are some of the best traders and merchants in the galaxy, and having them on our side will make our work much easier. The Gek are bipedal and stand between 4 and 4.5 feet in height. They're generally quite agile due to their size. They have 4-fingered hands with opposable thumbs, smaller though not dissimilar in proportions to a traveler like us. Gek have large eyes, usually set on either side of their heads like a bird, though some variations of the species possess eye stalks, bringing their eyes out further and sometimes forward. Having evolved as an amphibious race, their skin appears to be rubbery. They often have visible markings on their skin such as stripes or striations of color, likely an adaptation for camouflage in the local environment on the planet on which the individual was born. Their head shapes vary wildly between individuals. Some possess what appear to be horns or other bony protrusions. Some have flesh-covered crests, often in groups of 3, and others seem to possess long, twisted membranous structures covered in veins. They have beaked mouths, and their language includes beak clicking as a linguistic affectation, though it's likely only that, since most of their language can be learned by members of other races. Through interactions with members of the species, they've also been observed emitting chemical scents detectable by other races, though possibly as a form of communication with one another. To a casual observer used to the ecosystem of Earth, they resemble large bipedal frogs with a diverse set of secondary features. This comparison, while generalized, serves in describing other aspects of the species' biology. They're born as porwigles in larval pools. They persist in this state for some time before growing into Gek adults. Gek give birth to numerous porwigles in larva pools. The mass of porwigles born in this way, along with the liquid mass in which they're suspended, is called spawning syrup. The Gek come from a planet known as Balaron, or Udura in their own language, located near the center of the Euclid Galaxy. The location of the planet is unknown. No trade routes nor maps give any indication of where it might be located. The planet Balaron remains mysterious. No first-hand accounts of having seen it exist in living memory, though descriptions of it often make their way into rumors and legends. It was once a water planet, teeming with life. The Gek found it an ideal place for their spawning pools, and in time it was covered in them. The larval pools on Balaron were considered holy by the Gek at that time. Stories passed down through various records and via artifacts of the ancient Gek confirm this. Later accounts are less precise about what happened there, though we know that it must have been some time after their war with the Korvax that Balaron changed. The oceans dried and parched deserts took their place. The planet, once filled with life, now rendered dry and unusable as the spawning place for porwigles. Like many species in the galaxy, the Gek have spread their culture far beyond the time and place of their origin, having colonized and settled countless systems alongside the Korvax and Vy'keen. Balaron remains a strong cultural memory for them. It's the way of all thinking beings to spare a thought for a time or place we think of as home in one way or another. The Gek of old were far less sentimental than they, and perhaps I am today. I should say that the Gek today often live in harmony with the galaxy at large, maintaining trade and favorable diplomatic relations with other factions. The past is just that, the past, and the Gek as a whole should not be painted with broad strokes of a single brush. That said, the past is important to discuss because of how it has shaped their own culture and many of their relationships for so long thereafter. It's not known certainly when the cultural idea that the Gek were not only the first sentient species to arise in the universe, nor that which led to the belief that this was sufficient to prove the superiority of their race over others became central to their ideology. But these ideas formed the guiding principle for the First Spawn Empire. The Empire was warlike and xenophobic, preaching Gek superiority and crushing dissent or resistance with overwhelming force. These policies led to brutal tactics of oppression and strict class hierarchy among the Gek as well, with those deemed of lower class subservient to those considered worthy of first spawn status. Those Gek at the bottom of this strict hierarchy were called low spawn. The Empire led campaigns of dominance and war against the other races, and in particular, the beings they called the Aerons, who we know today as the Sentinels. The Gek worked, lived, and died under the auspices of the brutal regime, sorted, classed, and oppressed. Other conflicts raged across the galaxy at this time, though. The Vy'keen waged war against the Sentinels. Eventually, they emerged victorious in this conflict, leading to the silence of the Sentinels, though this would be a temporary reprieve. The war had come to Korvax's prime, and the Korvax were still recovering. The First Spawn Empire decided that this would be their time to seize power, and they made their move. The First Spawn Empire led an invasion of Korvax Prime. Fighting was brutal, and the Korvax could not, in their current state, stand against so strong an enemy. What remained of the Sentinel forces attempted to render aid, but they ultimately failed and were eventually banished by the Atlas. This led to the rise of new Sentinel forces, those we know today. The Korvax Convergence, the central neural network and store of generations of memories and experiences of the Korvax people, was nearly destroyed completely. This occurred when the planet of Korvax Prime was blasted apart. Nothing remained but drifting chunks of rock. The planet had been the hub for the network, and with its death, much of the Convergence went with it. Billions of Korvax entities were killed, and much of their cultural heritage and shared memory was wiped away forever. This event came to be known as the Great Disconnection. The First Spawn, not content with the near annihilation of their victims, made slaves of the remaining Korvax. Many were forced to labor for their captors, but most were broken down, scrapped, and their machine bodies used to produce new weapons of war. Things went on in this way for the Korvax until a group of enslaved entities made a sacrifice of themselves, using their control of nanite clusters within their own bodies to change the galaxy forever. The nanites were released into the Gek spawning pools on Balaron, altering their biology and changing their genetic codes and memories. Many of the remaining Korvax entities used this to their advantage, convincing members of the rising merchant community among Gek society to overthrow their leaders. The First Spawn were strong, but ultimately they were dependent upon the continued production and compliance of those they controlled, and were unable to mount a sufficient defense against an uprising from within, especially when they were cut off from their material needs. This change allowed the merchants and traders to rise to the top, and with a reverence for the Atlas and its ideals, they chose a more benevolent path than their predecessors. The Gek now freed the enslaved Korvax and soon altered their society forever. They would maintain cultural cohesion not as a xenophobic, violent empire, but as a network of traders and merchants across the galaxy. Borders were maintained, but the days of expansion and conquest were over. The modern mercantile culture of Gek society shows a direct line of succession from the early ideas of the newly changed species long ago. Gek today have formed vast merchant networks across the galaxy, and their trade in technology and resources has allowed technology to advance in leaps and bounds. Their society remains stratified, though this still hierarchical structure is less rigid and oppressive than that of the empire that once ruled their people, more often forming the basis for social interaction rather than acting as barriers to progress for individuals. Workers are often seen as being lower on the spectrum of success, while merchants and traders are given higher social status. Those with the highest standing in Gek society are the trade lords, beings with control over a great number of resources, often in control of trade routes or large-scale production facilities. This societal shift has led to a more open and less restrictive society, though some rebel against it still or stand outside it. Some Gek specialize in technological fields. These often work as overseers and builders. The creation and preservation of habitats on various worlds seems to remain important to them. Others put their time into farming and tending of plants, cultivation and care for flora from across the galaxy being of particular interest to them for a number of reasons. Information on the diet of Gek is difficult to find, though research and experimentation has led to several findings. They consume a number of species of plant which can be toxic to other species, for instance. In some cases, they also use the chemicals from plants consumed to alter the scents produced by their bodies in a way that further suggests a means of olfactory communication. Their traders travel far and wide to find the most sought-after goods and are often willing to offer good deals to get them from others. Among the most sought-after goods by the gek is the substance known as geknip. This is a product created using nip-nip buds, which are widely cultivated and farmed. They use this geknip to alter their scent profile when releasing gas packets. Geknip is a highly valued trade commodity, and if you can find a route between systems where the substance can be purchased at low cost and sold for a higher value, you can make good money as a geknip trader. They also tend to value their relics. Gek relics are small statues resembling a gek with a coin placed in the mouth. These are seen as symbols of their cultural ideas. These relics can be found through exploration or purchased and given to individual gek to gain reputation with the species as a faction. They can also be used at monoliths on gek planets in exchange for portal coordinates. In a society so reliant on concepts like equitable trade and fair dealing, reputation means a lot. Learning the language and gaining reputation can go a long way in making your interactions with the many gek you encounter less awkward and often quite profitable. Individual gek will more likely reward you with higher priced artifacts for your help. Merchants in gek controlled systems will also offer better prices when buying and selling goods. Reputation can be increased by defeating pirates in gek controlled systems, giving relics and other desirable items to gek, or completing missions for them. Internally, the relationships and structure of their society are maintained largely by their trade federation, though there are some smaller factions such as ideological holdouts of First Spawn. They maintain relationships with other species in a number of ways, the foremost of which is the Merchants Guild. The Merchants Guild is a faction within the galaxy that offers goods and services in exchange for completing missions. Rewards for completing missions for the Merchants Guild can include trade goods, new technology, currency, and faction reputation, which allows those with a higher reputation to take on more difficult and more lucrative contracts. Members of the guild can also receive free or discounted goods from the guild envoys on stations or archives if they have a high enough standing to claim them. The Merchants Guild is made up of members from many species, though the gek represent a much larger part of the group. Through the guild, they can share their culture with others and, if all goes well, make a tidy profit doing so. Missions offered by the Merchants Guild include activities like raiding depots and harvesters for technology, defeating pirates to protect trade routes, and taking pictures of resources or infrastructure, presumably for some reconnaissance. Standing in the Merchants Guild increases as missions are fulfilled. One begins as unknown to the guild and progresses through the ranks of Initiate, Apprentice, Journeyman, Associate, Senior, Master, Elder, and Exalted. These ranks carry benefits including obtaining resources and gifts, as well as being trusted with more profitable work, as stated previously. These social relations, while not exclusive to the gek, have clearly been molded by their cultural ideals. Management of trade routes on such a vast scale requires an understanding of and access to technology and knowledge required to maintain them. The gek's preference for starship technology reflects this need. They most often produce and fly the most capable freight haulers. Haulers were once necessary for carrying large cargoes, but with upgrades in ship technology in recent times, they're no longer required for this purpose. These hauler ships are heavier and bulkier, due in part to their cargo capacity. They also tend to have a lot of armor, as they can be outclassed in speed by other ships seeking to attack them for profit. To this end, these haulers possess higher shield bonuses than other ship classes and can withstand a lot of damage before losing in a battle. They can be outfitted with heavy weapons and used as a tanky, heavy escort ship if you plan to fly in groups, though they will be outclassed in damage and speed by other ships as well. Trade goods bought and sold by gek traders and members of the Merchants Guild come from all over the galaxy. To that end, hauling large cargo is not the only consideration for gek pilots looking to make their fortunes. Vessels designed for long-distance exploration are often in use as well. Scouts can fly to distant systems off the beaten path to engage in prospecting missions, looking for new sources of valuable minerals and other resources to mine and sell. Shuttle-class ships can be used for both of these activities. They have a balanced profile for good performance across the board, though they don't excel in any given area. The gek can sometimes be found piloting fighters. Combat's not often high on a list of activities likely to earn a high reputation in gek society, though it can be a road to wealth in some cases. Running protection, patrolling trade routes, and hunting dangerous pirates can earn a gek pilot both reputation and profit. Though piracy is often also an option, and many a fortune has been made in this profession by less scrupulous pilots. Trade with pirate groups and systems is also lucrative, though it's frowned upon by polite society, though not too much if the profit margins are high enough. You'll encounter many gek in your travels. Some will be friendly, and some will look at you over the muzzle of a smoking photon cannon. Though there are some without whom your journey as a traveler will not only be much more difficult, sometimes it'll be impossible. Specialist Polo is a gek who resides on the space anomaly along with priest entity Nada. They seem to have known each other for a long time. Some time ago, they could be found on the much smaller version of the anomaly. also with Nada nearby. Polo would, at this time, archive traveler discoveries in exchange for rewards and blueprints, such as other entities do aboard the current version of the Anomaly. Today, Polo offers travelers help locating Atlas interface stations and black holes. Polo first met Nada long ago on a distant planet in a crashed freighter, so the story goes. Chased by sentinels in the ruins of a galaxy empty of life, they fled for the center before they were attacked. Polo was killed, but told Nada to find them in another universe. Little is recorded after this time, and they don't often speak on the subject, but they are here and Nada stands nearby, evidence that things have worked out, in this galaxy at least. As I said earlier, many Gek have taken to the profession of building and construction in one way or another. As a traveler of the galaxy, you'll need to seek out this knowledge in order to survive your journey through the stars. You'll come to meet Gek who are willing to help you learn these things for a fee. They can be found at nearly any space station. By hiring them and then building a construction terminal at the base or freighter, they'll give you a mission to seek out new technology and resources, expanding your ability to craft. They will, after imparting to you what knowledge they can, ask you for help with another matter. They'll ask you to venture out into the galaxy and collect images of strange new sights for them. They'll reward you with a valuable artifact from their own travels. Gek who specialize in plants and farming are also willing to offer their services in exchange for payment. Farmers can be hired in a similar fashion as long as you have built an agricultural terminal at a base or on a freighter. They'll likewise offer missions to teach the traveler about farming, passing on vital information about plant life, where it can be found and how it can be cultivated. They take great pleasure in their work and in seeing what the travelers can grow, so much so that, like the Overseer, they'll offer rewards when presented with evidence of this. The Gek have been partially responsible in one way or another for the shape and state of the galaxy in modern times. The technological developments their culture has helped to foster have made trade, building, and farming easier and more accessible for all. Their persistence in maintaining trade routes and promoting the philosophy of equitable trade between factions has shaped the relations between mercantile organizations forever. The Gek have taught us to build and to farm, to trade, and to appreciate cultures other than our own. Their own history is full of violence and xenophobia, but their story is one of hope. Hope that even the strongest tyrants can be deposed and the worst empires can be toppled with time, with patience, and with courage. We'll meet many Gek in our travels and encounter many factions. Recent rumors indicate that there's a growing faction of First Spawn growing within their society. These are cause for concern, though. The growth of interspecies relations through trade and diplomacy fostered by modern Gek, as well as their respect for the Atlas and the peaceful coexistence with others which permeates their culture, won't be so easily displaced. The Gek are a part of our journey, but they each have their own journey and their own story for those willing to listen. Well, that's the Gek and their history. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate everyone who does, especially if you stick around to the end. If you like the video, please hit like. And if you don't want the angry, evil First Spawn Empire rising from the ashes and taking over the galaxy, hit subscribe. If you want to discuss anything, or think I missed something, let me know in the comments down below. Oh, and before you go, I want to give a shout out to my patrons who help support the channel. Our $10 patron is Washuki at the Artisan level. If you want to get your name in the credits, head on over and sign up. The Patreon link is in the description. You'll get access to an exclusive Discord server and some exclusive art and stories that you can use or discuss and contribute to. And remember, just because some sentinels are angry, doesn't mean you should stop mining. Alright, thanks everyone. Bye, Internet.